start really. If we start with like Man About the House, so you're on that and it's going well. Did you ever think you'd get a spin-off and then get your own thing?
No, not initially. We thought of that. We had a winner there with Man About the House once we played it in front of the audience.
Yeah.
We enjoyed it obviously because having been having been asked to be in it, you hope it's going to be a success, but you don't know, and you have to take pot luck. But then once the team had got together and we met everybody, and Yutha in particular that I knew, I thought, God, this is quite going to be good, I would have thought. And once in front of the audience, with the audience response to it, I thought this ought to be a winner. And Thames, in their wisdom, said this is just the pilot. But before I think we went home almost that night, they said, we're going to run with this. They didn't have to, or as they seem to have to do today more, decide whether it's going to get an audience or not. Their own judgment sort of made, and decided, yes, we're going to run with it. And then after that, after we did about the third year of it, they said, we're going to get some more a space out of Jordan Mildred spin-off. We met at Stratford East, which was Joan Littlewood's theatre workshop company in the East End of London, and I was a pretty callow youth at the time. And then Glyn Edwards came in as a member of the company. Glyn Edwards played the barman in Minder, which is something that you might remember. Yes. But he did other things, obviously. But he was a rep. He ran his own rep company once upon a time. And when we were doing a very successful play called The Good Soldier Schweik, Joan wanted to take it to Paris, where we were. Theatre Workshop is a much bigger success and recognised as a company than in England. And she said, I need some more women, some more actresses. Have any of you got wives or mistresses or partners? And Glyn said, well, my partner is an actress, and she would love to be a part of it. So he brought along Yutha, who eventually, they did get married whilst in the company. And Yutha came in, and she proved herself to be a wonderful light comedian, and Joan loved her. Joan adored her, and so she played several roles in that, and then she stayed with the company, and we continued playing things. And later on, when the company used to split up when it ran out of money, there were no subsidies then. She ran out of money, and we did other things, obviously, because we had to. And Youth and I did do some things together, but nothing of great significance until this casting. And the director knew Yutha because of her successes in sitcom, and the writers knew me because I happened to be a guest in one of their sitcoms, which was called All Cock and Gander. Wonderful title. All Cock and Gander, which had Richard O'Sullivan and Beryl Reid and John Cater. And I had a particular ripe scene in which I was reading a card in the window of a shop which said, wanted somebody with experience and interest in women, which I totally took the wrong way. And what was wanted by Beryl Reid, who was my employer, was a filing clerk. And so I took on this filing clerk, but every question she put at me, I took the wrong way. She said, how do you get on with women? I said, well, and all those things. And apparently I played it delicately well, because it could have been a little bit near the knuckle. And they thought of me as the first choice for the landlord. And so that was their choice. The director's choice was Yutha. What they didn't know is that we both knew each other, and that the chemistry, as it turned out, was already there.
Do you see any of the co-stars from that, like Paula Wilcox?
Yes, I see Paula. We keep in touch, don't we? Linda and Paul are great friends. They've worked together, haven't you?
Yeah, Sally.
And Sally, lovely ditzy Sally. Sally was just as ditzy off life as she was on the box, believe it or not. She did not know she was pregnant at 46. And that's when she had her first child, wasn't it? And she was lovely. And she would come into the bar and she said, I think it's my round for a drink. She was that much independent, and she'd bring out a purse, and it was bulging with pounds note, £5 note, £10 notes. We said, for goodness sake, Sally, put it away. And she said, what? She said, money. And at the time, I actually had a hairpiece, which sometimes I wore away from being George, because I thought it obviously ages you not to have hair, and I was actually only late 30s then, so I had a hairpiece. And there was a joke made by Richard, I think, at some. He said, well, keep your hair on, and everybody laughed. And Sally said, what are you laughing at? He said, well, about Brian and his hair. She said, well, what's wrong with his hair? She said, it's false. She said, it's not. But she was lovely.
Yes.
Yeah, I have.
Oh,
Yes, Linda combs it from time to time. Not allowed to wear it. It's actually grey now, isn't it?
It was. Yeah.
So you were in Carry On England as well, one of the last Carry On films of the original.
Yes.
How was that? Just to be on that set with Carry On people.
Oh, amazing. And again, because I grew up in the industry because of my dad, so I'm so used to getting out of bed at 3 in the morning when the noise was too much downstairs and seeing these people in my front room. So I did know them all. You know, I knew the Bernie Breslaws and the Kenny Connors and the Tommy Coopers and people like that when I was a child. So yeah, working with Kenny, I think would have liked me to have married his son, Jeremy. But I adored Kenny. I absolutely adored Kenny. One of the nicest people in the business. My friend, certainly, very much my pal.
It was a joy working with lots of people of experience that you appreciated, even if, however close that you knew them. And I thought, well, this is joy. Here we are out in Yorkshire, which at the time, 2002, I think, when I joined them, there was blazing sunshine. Do you remember that, times when we had blazing sunshine? And this was on the Yorkshire moors, believe it or not. And we had seats, rows of seats, with people to sit down between doing their scenes. And we sat there, and I remember, I think I was, Peter Sallis was on one side, Bert Quirk was, I said, this is not a bad life, is it? Here we are, we're gazing across the Yorkshire moors, and the sun's blazing down on us, and we're getting paid. Not a lot, but we're getting paid. And yes, it's not bad. We met.
We met playing husband. Oh, we did.
Father and daughter.
We met playing husband and wife.
We met playing husband and wife
ago.
called Wife Begins at 40.
Yes.
This is Madam, of course. And I was playing the husband then. It was a Ray Cooney adaptation,
yes.
you remember that?
Yes.
Part with 2 Americans. And then a few years later, we played together again down there because we got a play that we thought would be fun. And we played...
I played your daughter.
Daughter, yes. Husband, father and daughter. And I won't tell you how to use the makeup. But that was fun. I don't know what we play now, though. Granddad and granddaughter or whatever. Well, the way you change, you haven't changed at all. I know you must be a picture at home somewhere. Rotting away. When it was live, television was actually live, and I remember doing it. I'm older than you, and I know that I was doing it live. They would sometimes, the stage manager would drop down in front of you because he was watching the clock much more avidly because he was watching 9 o'clock news is coming up and we've got to get you in and inside before then. And he would, if you were going too slow or the show was going too slow, he dropped down on his knees so nobody could see it. And he'd go, speed up. So you suddenly say, well, dear officer, where were you going wrong tonight? Or he'd do it the other way around because you were not in the time and you go slowly. So you say, well, it was like this on the line. And I remember doing, when Glenn, the American astronaut, went into space, we were doing a Z-cast, and they were trying to stop all the programs building up to the news of Glenn and trying people to lose a few minutes off their programs. which were going live, so that they could accommodate the 9 o'clock news that had to go out at 9 o'clock, no other time. And we were asked to drop minutes from the programme, which was a panic-stricken for all the actors, because they either had to lose scenes or drop scenes or think quickly to make cuts in something that was live. Producer would never suffer fools. I mean, if people came up to us in our early days in a restaurant or a bar and say, excuse me, well, don't even know what you say, excuse me, would you sign that? And she said, excuse me, but we're having a drink or we're having a meal. We'll sign it later. Well, I might not be here later. She said, well, too bad. I mean, you're in trouble. And then she might even say, well, she was capable of that. And you thought, if only I had the nerve, because that's what I felt. She would never, ever, whatever the company was that we were in, we did a stage version of George and Mildred. She would say, right, are we going out for supper tonight? Meaning you and me, like, you know, before. I said, yes. She said, right, and we're taking the company out. I said, yeah, but she would never leave any one member of the company, however junior he or she was. She was generous in spirit and things. She had a rough side to her
That's
tongue.
nice, because when you're on tour and you're
Yeah.
kind of a junior member of the company and you're not earning a lot of money, when to be
Being a
included
junior.
is a big deal.
Yeah.
It is a big deal to be included.
The best joke of all was when he'd gone to the pub to get up his courage, as it were, wasn't it? Because she was determined that night would make it, and he kept having a few pints and things like that. And then he said he's going to go. I've driven the wife away now. And he said, and he kept putting off the evil moment, as he thought, and eventually he got home, rather the worse for wear, and climbed into bed. And what was supposed to be the line was that Mildred looked at him lovingly and said, "Be gentle with me, George," which we thought was wonderful, marvelous. And just before we were about to do the scene, the writers came down to me and said, "Change it." We said, "What?" I said, "George says it." Okay, so I went down and I said, "Be gentle with me, Mildred," and it brought the house down, of course. And it was a lovely twist at the end, wasn't it? That George felt that way. I don't know why, because he had these grubby books. He never quite explained George's ambiguity sexually or whatever. I used to get lots of people come up to me in a pub when we used to initial days go into a pub before it became too public, as it were. And men used to come and said, one man in particular came and he said, "Got any advice?" He said, you know about, and I said, "Sorry." He said, "Well, I've got your problem." I said, "Really?" I said, "But what is my problem?" It's George. You don't. I said, "Oh, that." He said, "Yeah." He said, "Any tips?" I said, "Well, not really." I said, "I'll tell you what." I said, "Why don't you have a few more pints?" And by the time you got home, you both had forgotten what you were going up for.